Hello, I am Marlene Perez, and this is my presentation on prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells, looking at the endosymbiotic theory and the development of complex organelles, presented for Biology 510, a comprehensive overview of cells and molecular biology. This presentation is for an undergraduate study. The objectives for this presentation is general information on cells and the two types of cells, prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. Looking at the differences and similarities of the two cells, a look at the endosymbiotic theory, and the development of complex cells and organelles, and where the understanding of these endosymbiotic theories have led us. Cells are the basic unit of life. All living things are made up of one or more cells. From a simple single-celled bacterium to a multicellular organism like a whale, tree, or even a human, we are all made up of cells. Cells can differ greatly from one another, whether it is based on its size or function. A bacteria cell, for instance, is only a few micrometers, but the size of a cell like that of a frog's egg can be 1 millimeter in size. The shape of cells can also be very different. Brain cells that send signals to other areas of the body have long protrusions, where parameciums can have an oval-like shape with many hair-like extensions called cilia coming out of its body that rotate to allow for movement. Despite these differences, however, they all have the basic chemical composition. They are all made up of the same molecules that allow for these reactions to occur. All cells come from pre-existing cells, whether it is through mitosis, which is cell division of somatic cells or body cells, or through meiosis, which is cellular division of reproductive cells, such as those of egg and sperm. All cells come from other cells. Cellular reproduction transports genetic materials that are found in these cells, and they are passed on to other cells. In somatic cells, the genetic information is identical, whereas in gamete cells, or sex cells, the genetic material is unique, which allows for genetic variation of organisms. This is still passed on from one set of cells to another cell. I will discuss the two types of cells, prokaryotic cells and eukaryotic cells. I will also discuss the characteristics of each cell, as well as the similarities and differences. Prokaryotic cells are simple cells. The prefix pro means before, and kary means nucleus. So prokaryotic cells are cells with no nucleus. They are believed to have come before eukaryotic cells. This will be discussed further in this presentation. These are single-celled organisms. They are small in size, usually ranging from 10 to 100 micrometers in diameter. As stated before, they do not have nucleus or membrane-bound organelles. The genetic material found in prokaryotic cells is in a central region in the cytoplasm of the cell called the nucleoid region. The DNA is a single, large loop known as a circular chromosome. The organisms that have prokaryotic cells are bacteria and archaea. Bacteria are a diverse group. They are surrounded by a cell wall made up of a carbohydrate and proteins called peptidoglycan. The cell walls provide the bacteria with extra protection. It also helps with its shape and external environment. Some bacteria also have an outermost layer known as a capsule. It is the sticky layer that allows the bacteria to stick to the surfaces and its environment. The surface of the bacteria can also have specialized structures, such as flagella, a whip-like structure used for movement, filimbrae, which are hair-like structures that help it attach to the host cell or surfaces, and pili, a rod, hair-like structure that can assist in movement of the bacteria or for DNA transfer. Archaea can also have many of these structures found in bacteria. However, their cell walls are not made up of peptidoglycan, but still contain carbohydrates and proteins. Eukaryotic cells are much larger than prokaryotic cells. Eukaryotic cells can also vary in size and range from 10 to 100 micrometers. They are complex cells with a nucleus and membrane-bound organelles. The prefix U means true and keri means nucleus, so they have a true nucleus. Within the nucleus, the eukaryotic cell is where the DNA is contained. It is a large linear chromosome. The membrane-bound organelles are like compartments that perform a specific function so that the cell can properly work. Each little organelle can control its own conditions so that it can perform these functions, such as lysosomes help maintain the pH so that they can get rid of cellular waste. The organisms with eukaryotic cells are all the other organisms besides bacteria, such as animals, plants, protists, and fungi. Eukaryotic cells can be single-celled, like protists, or multicellular, like us, humans. Some of the differences between the two cells are in the size of the cell. Eukaryotic cells are larger, where they can be 1 to 100 micrometers, whereas prokaryotic cells are smaller. They range from 1 to 10 micrometers. In eukaryotic cells, which is their distinguishing characteristic, they have membrane-bound organelles and a nucleus. Prokaryotic cells do not have membrane-bound organelles and do not have a nucleus. Both cells do have ribosomes. However, in prokaryotic cells, the ribosomes are smaller. In eukaryotic cells, the ribosomes are larger and much more complex. Cell division is another difference in the two cells. Eukaryotic cells go through mitosis, which goes through a few steps for somatic cells, and meiosis, which also goes through different steps in gamete cells. Prokaryotic cells, however, divide through binary fission, where the body divides to make two cells. This leads to the type of reproductive differences of the two cells. Eukaryotic cells have sexual reproduction in their gamete cells, which allows for a variation of genetic materials. Prokaryotic cells, however, have asexual reproduction and make exact copies of each other. So how did the complexity of eukaryotic cells occur? A theory is that a cell, an alpha proto-eukaryote, came to be when it engulfed an energy-producing organism, a symbiont. This hypothesis is that a symbiotic relationship began when an anaerobic archaea bacteria engulfed a respiratory protobacteria after being engulfed. This may have evolved into an energy-producing organelle. This organelle may have become a membrane-bound organelle due to it being bound by the plasma membrane, creating a membrane-bound organelle, and possibly the beginning of an intracellular compartment which was working to make energy for that cell. So what is the endosymbiotic theory? The endosymbiotic theory is a theory of the origin of eukaryotic cells and their organelles, like the mitochondria and chloroplast. The theory, as mentioned before, is that at one time, certain organelles, like the mitochondria and the chloroplast, were free-living bacteria that were engulfed by another cell. It became an endosymbiont to that cell. Since the symbiont was helping the host cell, instead of being metabolized, it stayed in the cell. Both cells benefited, where one was providing energy for the cell and the other one was being protected from the external environment. The endosymbiotic event may have been why cellular organization occurred and the evolution of life on Earth. This new cellular compartmentalization and symbiotic relationship with mitochondria may be why eukaryotes adapted ecologically. The problem is that this process is still not very well understood. There are many theories. One of the theories is the inside-out theory. This theory suggests that the outer nuclear membrane, the cell membrane, and the cytoplasm came from extracellular protrusions. The endoplasmic reticulum, the ER, was the extracellular protrusion, and the mitochondria were trapped in the endoplasmic reticulum. The mitochondria went through the endoplasmic reticulum and was able to enter the cytoplasm. The cell membrane then completely closed itself and then it also closed on the ER from the exterior of the cell. So if the endosymbiosis explains the origin of the mitochondria, where did the organelles come from? It has been suggested that the organelles may have evolved from other endosymbiotic origins. Multiple engulfings of free-living organisms may have occurred. Organelles such as the flagellum, peroxisomes, and even the nucleus were once endosymbionts. There is still research on this concept, however. So there is still continuing research on endosymbionts and the endosymbiotic relationships. One understanding is to understand the origin of the mitochondria can help with antibiotic therapy. Through research, they're finding out that some antibiotics work differently on the mitochondria, and so the way it affects the mitochondria may help in the understanding of antibiotics and side effects on people. Other studies have been done where they're investigating the symbionts and the relationship with animals, which can help in the understanding of the organism's health, development, and evolution. Dermatology has a study where they're looking at the biological and pathogenesis studies of endosymbionts, and they're looking at the development of treatments for dermatological parasitosis. So in conclusion, cells are the basic unit of life. There are two types of cells, prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. There are similarities and differences in both, but the main similarity is that they are made up of the same chemical makeup and contain similar structures. Differences are quite a few, but the main difference between the two is that prokaryotic cells do not have a nucleus and do not have membrane-bound organelles, and eukaryotic cells do have a nucleus and do have membrane-bound organelles. The evolution of eukaryotic cells is through the endosymbiotic theory, which states that a host cell may have engulfed a symbiont. It was through this event that eukaryotic cells became complex with complex organelles. There is continual research going on the understanding of the endosymbiotic theory and the understanding of microbial symbionts. These have led to research on side effects of antibiotic treatments due to how it affects the mitochondria. Understanding microbial symbionts relationship with organisms can also help with the understanding of the health, development, and evolution of organisms. In dermatology, there are studies on the pathogenesis of endosymbionts, and it has helped with research in the development and treatment of dermatology. The following slides are the references for this presentation. Thank you for your time.